All right, we're live. Welcome everybody to a DoneJS contributors meeting, where you can learn what's going on this week and next week with DoneJS, CanJS, and SteelJS. I will go first. My status is actually I'm going to share my screen. The first cool thing, and I shared a link to it, is in my status. I organized all of Bitovi's, a lot of it very old, but some of it not, presentation material, which apparently I did not link to correctly. What the heck? Apparently don't know how to do Trello, but I'll post a link there. I'll show you the folder. So there's this on Google Drive, shared on the internet, is a bunch of folders with all of our training material and all of our kind of meetup presentation material, organized by the kind of our framework tools. The Bitovi one is things like that's for like high-level talks, architecture, what matters on the checklist one is what matters on a JavaScript app, like what actually matters to a JavaScript project. CanJS ones, and the new Bitballs one I just created. That's also part of my status. The DoneSSR one I created. Matthew's server-side rendering one, and the overviews of like what DoneJS is and stuff like that. So there's meetup material, presentation material. Sheriff actually gave one of them. I had to convert it to PowerPoint, the kind of default DoneJS Basics one, which I converted to PowerPoint. If anybody here wants to give a meetup or a talk, well, there's some good material in here from all of that. Some of the CanJS stuff is not updated, and then I'll have it like as what version. So this is not like showing all of 2.3. And now, as I'm going to kind of be releasing 3.0 things, I'm probably going to go in here like I did for Can Fixture and make a presentation. So if you, just want to do a quick meetup and give a talk on Can Fixture, show that off, there's a presentation totally ready for you. So explore that if you want to do some evangelism. The next thing is David and I really started in earnest now the 3.0 work. We've created 1 million CanJS repositories. A lot of them are empty right now, but because every module or modlet is really going to be its own package. The reason we're doing this is to make it easier for people to migrate to newer functions and features piecemeal. Right? It'll be really nice if you could use a CanMap 5.0 with a can control or binding syntaxes, 2.3 or 3.0 really. So you can get bug fixes, you can upgrade parts of your app. We're still going to make this essential. There's going to be still core, and that'll include the things that have traditionally been in core, but we're starting to split it all out. The big work has been in making a can util library, which Bajix did a nice contribution to. He made it, we're going to go kebab case. This has a JS folder with all of the individual helpers that we use split out, and a DOM helper with all of the individual helpers split out. What I'm most proud of now is the new 2.3. Inserted and removed events will happen end of turn, but if mutation observers are supported, it'll happen via mutation observers. So we should get much faster inserting and removing of elements in 2.3 than we have, or sorry, in 3.0 than we had in 2.3. If you want things to work everywhere, you still have to use this mutate module to like add, to call its insert before, replace child, append child methods to actually mutate the DOM. This is really so that we don't have to make can simple DOM. Support mutation observers, which would be a nightmare. So all of CanJS core stuff, when it's changing the DOM, will use these methods. but as long as you're using that, things will work.
Could that be used for testing at all? Would that be useful? Like, I don't want to wait for mutation observers when I'm testing.
You don't want to wait for mutation observers? I don't
Yeah,
know.
like if I'm testing an inserted event or something, or does that not even matter? I guess when you're testing the DOM, you're using like func unit anyways. Never mind.
Sure. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but we can talk about it later. But
Cool, cool.
so I can go more into the 3.0 if that's something people want to talk about. I reviewed the PMO guide, made some changes to that. Yeah, the Bitballs presentation is really cool to check out. I think it went really as well as like a first draft of a presentation can go. DoneJS, just want to show it real quick. So the cool thing about it was really this slide. I really enjoy. Oh, it's not going to share it. Well, you guys can kind of see, right? Right. It just walks through the entire stack of bitballs and how it all pieces together. Um, when I showed this to people, they're like, "Your stack is so huge," but I think people don't realize just how much goes really into building. Like they're like, "Oh, do you really need continuous integration?" I was like, "I would die. I would it would literally be impossible to maintain pretty much all of our projects without it." And then I just walk people through what REST looks like. A lot of people aren't familiar with that. I think one thing people are surprised by how, like, I think most people assume that people are really well educated and don't give talks, but just explain. So many people had questions just on what REST is and how it works. And just walk through like how the actual app is laid out and that whole relational stuff and how sessions work. So I was pretty happy with that. Still needs a little bit more polish with some of the videos because I kind of did them last minute, or not last minute, they just take forever. And next week, I'm doing the DoneJS Denver training tomorrow. I'll be working on 3.0, hopefully like really get it so something people can use, and kind of going to start looking to apply for more meetups to give the Bitballs talk at. And eventually, Matthew, we still need to do the Steel one. So that's it for me. Who's next?
I can go. Mine's pretty simple. I've been working on CanZone introduction article that Brian started and I've taken over.
Cool. Is there anything you want to talk about?
I do what?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh, is there anything I want to talk about?
After? Right after?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Good stuff. Thank you for your help on the guide too, fixing these bugs. Appreciate it.
And then I'm also working on a second CanZone article, and then I'm going to get to Steel documentation fixes. So.
Oh, you should show your JS bin.
I kind of want. I don't know. Maybe I should save that one.
Oh yeah, you're gonna keep that in your pocket to blow people's minds later.
I'll show it now. Why not?
Give the people what they want.
Give them what they want. Yeah. Hopefully I can find it. Where is it? This is the one. This is a slowed down version, but it simulates what happens in server-side rendering using zones. So like each of these, you can think of these as like each of these is a request that we're rendering. It's red when we do like an AJAX request, a very simple AJAX request to get a person, a user, and then it renders when the AJAX request completes, and it turns green, and then it goes away. So kind of see each one of these is its own little isolated zone, runs within the zone. Yeah,
and it has its own little micro document kind of too.
Yeah, it's a little browser window.
That's cool.
So.
Awesome.
That is
all right, who wants to go next?
Yeah, I can, but I'm nothing special for me. So yeah, I'm working on client project this week, next week also. Maybe I have to look into some stuff can connect and can set, and maybe some steel stuff if I have time to. So that's for me.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think there's a disconnect on how Can Connect works that I would love to talk with you about to help improve the presentation of that a little bit better.
Yeah,
At some
sure.
point, if you have time. Cool. Thank you. Prashant?
Okay, yeah, I could go next. So I was looking at a couple of issues. So the first issue that I was looking at was uh, issue number 3 in can Newton, which is about deep exchange changes. So it says that it should be deep exchange should be renamed to deep assign, and it shouldn't require true as the first argument. So what I'm not clear about is that whether we should be changing the file names as well and everything, or is it just change in the function?
We should change the file name. So this is the one. It should be JS deep dash assign.
Right.
And then this, because this was trying to comply with jQuery syntax, and this is basically a ripoff. Actually, I think I might have accidentally removed the acknowledgement. I think this might have just been copied from jQuery. It starts with a true. There's this part where it's like checking and setting deep to true. Really, deep should just be true, and it should be called deep assign. Because assign, there's the object assign now is like essentially what that does, and we're trying to create our own little polyfill for it. Well, we're not doing, this is adding deep assign, but the terminology now that people are using is called assign, not extend, so we're going to try to comply with that.
I see. So both the function name and the file name should be changed in this case, right?
Mm-hmm. And the folder too.
The folder too. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was one. The second issue that I was looking at was on issue number 2358. It says that
Issue and CanJS?
this is in CanJS. Yeah. Right. So this says that if you try to render stash and it's a string, it doesn't work. I mean, it returns a document fragment and not a string as we have documented.
Yeah, that's this might just be documentation, and we just have to say this doesn't work.
Okay.
With
is that a public API? Can view render as?
It might be. CanView render probably is, but this was because the old versions of our template engines could actually render, like actually rendered to a string, and then did all this convoluted mess to get it into a document fragment that was live. CanStash just starts with a fragment. I guess this a technique, we could use that. If that works in every browser, that's totally fine. Otherwise, we'd have to like have a serializer. So I don't know if XML serializer exists in every browser that we support, so like IE8 and up, then sure, we can add this in.
All right, I'll check that and I'll try to fix it if it works across all the browsers, including IE8 and above.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Prashant. Is there anything that you want to talk about afterwards?
No.
Nope.
No,
Cool.
that's it.
All right, Ilya or Kevin?
I don't really have anything. I'm just looking into a little bit about how our plugins can work to see if we can compose them together. We've got that long thread. So I'm going to do a little research on Yeoman and see how their compose with thing works to see if that will actually let us hook plugins together.
Yeah. So for those who weren't part of this conversation, what we want to be able to do is kind of have composed plugins, like say, hey, I want to add I want to add CommonJS, but then I want to add Jasmine. So the generators both need to then, there's actually two transformations from our base generators that need to happen. It'd be nice if that kind of stuff is possible. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to look into that. That's all I got.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Ilya? Have you had?
No, don't have anything. Like, I was observing more.
Okay, cool. So let's get to the discussion part. We're going to skip talking about the governance, at least like trying to decide anything. I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts, but David's not here, and I told him that we would wait until next week when he's around.
Is he off today?
No, he's on a train headed back from Seattle to where he lives. I know. Trains are funny. So I don't know if any of his thoughts, we could talk a little bit about it, but not get into detail. The only other thing is, hey Sheriff, is the 3.0, the way we're building 3.0. If there's any thoughts or, just to kind of, I can explain a little bit more what we're doing there.
So one question I have is, do we remove jQuery from a dependency as a dependency, or so do we under, or in the 2.1 version we have MooTools, we have jQuery, we have Septo, and all the stuff. So we remove all the dependencies from that, or and we make a polyfill for all that.
So that part is already done, actually. So the full plan is, we're going to make a standalone utility layer that supports what everything needs. Which the hardest part of that, it's already done, is the event delegation library. It's making event delegation. But because we're moving to IE9 as the base for what we're going to support, well, element matches is available, so it makes it so much easier because you don't have to have a selector engine to make it possible. So that's already done. Now the other thing though is jQuery, especially. There's a lot of integrations that we've done. We made it so that if you modify the DOM with jQuery, our live bindings will see those mutation events and be able to tear themselves down. So we're probably going to still, and also jQuery is got better event delegation than I'm going to write, like fixes a lot of bugs. So we're probably going to make a jQuery compatibility where if you're using jQuery, then those same kind of like niceties that the type jQuery integration had exists, but the standard CanJS download will not require you to have jQuery anymore.
So would you if you would install canutil jQuery? I'm assuming that's a separate package. You install that and then you
it might be there'll be probably a can jQuery is actually what I think it'll be, and then within there there'll be sub bundles of whatever the integration points. There'll be a util integration point. And then probably the other big one is for control, can control. Right now, probably the biggest breaking change is we're going to make the default can control this.element a normal element, not a jQuery wrapped element. That's probably the biggest substantive change to CanJS.
Sorry, can you repeat it? Sorry, sorry. Can you repeat that?
When you create a control.
Yeah.
The this.element inside of that control is a jQuery wrapped node.
Yeah.
This.element is going to be in 3.0 without any unless you add. By default, it's going to be just a normal element.
Okay.
It's not going to be a node list. But you can add the jQuery hooks, and I've already kind of put all of this in place to convert it to a jQuery node list.
Behind the scenes.
So yeah, there's a secondary plugin you can use, because I do want everything to be extremely backwards compatible. So I'm looking at it as 3.0 is going to be built the right way, and then we'll have other plugins that kind of go on top and make it act like fix changes like that, if that's what you want. If you want your CAN controls to look like jQuery controls, then you can do that.
So, but the question is, so we make all these polyfills for that jQuery supports. So we have to maintain that polyfills all the time. This is really hard, or isn't it?
Well, we were already doing it because we basically had polyfills and things like that for every other library. And we've had problems where like jQuery will change, oh, this API, and then everything will break. Fortunately, the polyfills that because we're targeting IE 9, which is a much better browser, the level of sophistication that our util layer has to be is much less, and especially if we provide a jQuery-backed version of this, where, okay, sure, there's some really esoteric bugs that you might experience, then you can use the jQuery version. But by and large, our core tech, because it can run on the virtual DOM, doesn't really push the boundaries of of DOM APIs. It's not hitting weird corners of DOM APIs that might not work in some browsers. It's just very much like append, remove element, and event delegation is by far the most complex part of it.
Okay. So are there plans for Zepto or modules, or is it only jQuery
I think only jQuery, because if you're using Zepto, I don't know. I think that the way people write most code now with CanJS is your event handlers are kind of in your template. It's template and model. It's MVVM. It's not. You're using the events object very often. So a lot of that kind of stuff, which was really important for like CanJS pre 2.0. Where you're doing so much in jQuery, all the time in jQuery. There's so much less of that now that I don't think it's super important to provide like the Zepto or MooTools integration, because Zepto and MooTools, it'll work just fine alongside of them now because it just works anyways. And because I made it use mutation observers, the only problem is if you're trying to do server-side rendering with Zepto or MooTools, our service, and you're using our base CAN simple DOM, that will not work because mutation observers aren't supported. You have to use like JS DOM where mutation observers are supported if you want to use MooTools. And then
almost
all the
definitely
memory
doesn't
stuff
work
is
now anyways.
Huh?
So I'm sure it doesn't work now anyways.
Mutation observers in
No, I'm sure the other libraries don't work. I don't think we don't have any config to make sure that there's definitely no test to make sure that MooTools works in that DoneSSR app.
Oh, DoneSSR. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's I think it's all right. I'd be surprised if anybody's written like a 2.2 or a 2.3 application. The biggest problem will be this.element. You will have to change your this.elements unless you use the plugin. If you don't use the plugin, everywhere you see this.element in a controller, you'll have to do $this.element, and then you go from there. And that should be the biggest. I think that hopefully that's the only big change if you're upgrading to 3.0. Other than your setup, how you download it, things like that might be different.
Okay.
So I think it'll be good. I mean, it was a lot of weight for David and myself to maintain all of those different libraries. And we could have just said, oh, we're just going to do jQuery, but then we had jQuery break things out from under us too.
So is this repo online where you have this jQuery plugin stuff there?
What do you mean, we haven't done the jQuery integration part.
Not yet.
No, that'll come later. I think the strategy we're taking is let's get everything working again from CAN-util. So I've got controller or CAN control working already, which is kind of the hardest part. I've just finished getting CAN maps test to pass. So the plan is to get all of that working, get a 3.0 pre out, and then fill in later the jQuery integration part.
Okay.
How do we? I'm thinking more of a general DoneJS. Like I don't know what version of DoneJS we're gonna have CAN 3.0, but eventually we'll have it. Like, what do we do about? What do we do about like how should DoneSSR be compatible with both? Because I'm sure there's going to be some changes needed to make DoneSSR work with the new version.
What? I don't think there should be.
Well, it'd be like right now we shim. The way that we get the VDOM loaded is we shim jQuery. We make VDOM be a dependency of jQuery.
Oh.
That's how VDOM is
Yeah,
loaded.
that's
Or we
okay.
probably
So
load it a better way.
part of me was thinking we might actually do is make for all of these DOM helpers, like actual DOM as a dependency or something. And then we'll have a module that's just an empty module that says, oh, here, it's just the document. Otherwise, we map it to VDOM. Is the way that I was thinking about accomplishing the same thing. Is that if you have a module that depends on the... Huh?
It would have to be the opposite. If you want to load in Node.js, then it can't depend on configuration.
That is the hard part with Node.js, right? If Steel is loading in Node.js, then you can make it depend on configuration. I'm not entirely sure what to do about if you're just wanting to use pure Node and how to make Steel and our stuff be able to swap that out. Other than we have a configuration for all of these that says, can you do configure, if you define your dependencies and require a JS, can you also add, or sorry, in CommonJS, can you also add another dependency?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but it's not really.
I mean, we could have a CommonJS build, but that kind of defeats the whole point of what we're trying to do is make it so you can just use these things straight away.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we can figure out how to do it. I guess my question is more about, there is going to be a new way that's slightly different than the current way. Should DoneSSR just like,
ideally it could
just break with 2.3?
Well, yeah, probably actually. If you think about it, that's fine. Like, as long as the APIs are the same, there's like a DoneSSR for CanJS 2.3, and there's a DoneSSR for CanJS 3.0. And to a user who's never really calling those APIs very much themselves anyways, what do they care? It just works. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is I think the define plugin. This is the one thing that I've yet to work out is I want the define plugin to be kind of the default experience. But it's kind of weird to have that the default experience when there's also can list, the old standard can list. So I don't know, API-wise, those things feel so different. It's kind of weird to have them in the same space. So I have yet to figure that out. If you get what I mean. It's weird to be like, you can't define, you just kind of define a constructor function, and that works. I might make a can define extend method just so it parallels the list nature, so you're still using the extend method. I don't like it, but until proxies come, we can't make a comparable way of extending the list I don't even know if there are good ways of extending arrays to make your own array type. It's not something like I don't know how well supported that is. I know John David Dalton spent a lot of time trying to make that work. I don't know if he ever even accomplished it.
So last question I have is, so the main or the provided way to load CanJS is in 3.0 with Steel and CommonJS way. So there's no global build anymore.
No, there will be there'll still be like a single can dot everything global build.
Can dot everything?
Like can dot component, can dot stash,
Okay.
can dot whatever. There'll still be. We're gonna make like a global script, and there's gonna be a core CanJS that will essentially, if you require that, it will give you a can object back, and all of the core APIs will be added to that.
Okay. So why we remove the downloader or the custom build then?
Why are we removing that? It's because it's horrible to maintain. It's really painful, breaks all the time. David doesn't want to do it, and I'm not going to force him to do it. I just don't think the pain of that was ever worth the benefit. If people want to make their own custom bundles, then they can go do that themselves. And they can go, each one of these sub-projects should have a global version of it that people can use.
Yeah, but the problem, or I like the downloader because I'm working on Windows, and you know, if you're working on Windows, you have to install this stuff like Visual Code or all the stuff to let Steel tools working or make Steel tools working. If you don't do that, Steel tools doesn't work, and you can't build your own bundles. So I like a downloader because I didn't install all the stuff. I can say, okay, I want to have a list, I want to have lazy map or all the stuff, and make my custom build, and I got that, and I load that into my app. So if you're on Windows, you have all to do the stuff to make your. I think it's horrible to install all the stuff on Windows. On Mac, on Linux, I'm right. That's very easy to make your own build. But in Windows, it's horrible today.
Yeah, I mean I hear what you're saying. The reason is like no other library did that, or does that. And it's somehow everybody manages to just use the kind of standard global big one. I think what we would just do is say, okay, here's all of CanJS, and here's like the core CanJS, and you can use either download, and we'll build that. At the point where someone becomes sophisticated enough to say, well, I don't really want this part, this extra plugin that's like a third-party plugin, like Can Validate or something like that. Then I think you just see it from other projects is at that point people are sophisticated enough to go do their own build, or they're using a module loader to load the framework.
Maybe if you want, I can look into that, and I would make a downloader builder on PHP. Maybe I can work with Sheriff, and we can provide an third party
side. The way to do it though would be a node project that just uses Steel to do it. I mean, we already built that, but I think it's kind of hacky right now. Is the way to do it right is to use the new Steel, and npm installs all of CanJS dependencies, and then any incoming request, it just keeps the tree in memory, and it keeps the minified versions in memory, and it just compiles the graph, sends it out, compiles the graph, sends it out, just concats and sends. And it could even cache, like say, oh, these are these 5 things, bundled. we can just look by key and see if we've made this already. And if we have, we send that result back. But then the reason why it's a pain is because every time then someone updates any of the sub-projects, and especially if they're going to start having different versions and things like that, you just have to maintain all of that. It's tricky. So what I would say is you should wait till David's back and then tell David. Convince him to do it.
Okay. So,
He's
but
like
I like
It's
download.
possibly
So-
an RFC, you know? It's like
RFC.
whether RFC, should we
Yeah.
keep the download builder or not?
Yeah. Do we have a template? I thought Matthew make an issue where you link to the Ember template. So we doesn't
No.
have a template yet.
We haven't decided on that yet.
Yeah, we'll decide that. We'll spend next week kind of talking about that. The only other thing is, Julian, you brought up the backlog of issues. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to talk about that.
Maybe we can talk about that a short way. Yeah, is there any possibility to reduce all the issues, because we have 200 issues or 200 and more issues on CanJS? Maybe we have go to each one of them and close them if there are not. Yeah, if there is an issue with a deprecated module, we can close this and can say, okay, it's deprecated. Now use use a can stash. Maybe if someone has problems with mustache or EGS.
So
Or
we
what do you
did.
think about that?
I mean, we had like 400, like maybe in September or something, and we did a decent job reducing them, and we had like 23 2.3 releases or something already. So we've been trying to close out issues as fast as they come. A problem is if you look especially at like the older ones, if you go to like the beginning ones, they're all like 3.0 features that like they're just feature. A lot of them are feature requests. So
Yeah, but
you can see the number that are.
For example, there's can model. So can model is deprecated in favor of can connect. So
Yeah.
we can close them.
Yeah, sure. Those you can close. Go right ahead. And we can do some more triaging, absolutely. I just think it kind of goes in phases. Like what I really think is going to help close a lot of these is 3.0, especially some of the feature ones.
What about our pull requests? There are 40 pull requests, so maybe we can close also one of them. They are very old at the beginning.
Yeah.
Maybe we can close half of them because they are not needed anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who should do that? Who should do that?
Yeah.
You or
Nobody is gonna like be able to do that within like a week or two. Because right now the effort is to get 2.3 out. Now if there's huge issues that people really like need to get in and you know they should kind of make a little bit more of a stink, and then like if these are things that really are important, like well this is almost certainly fixed now with can set. We could probably close this actually. If this is important to somebody, then they should be like, hey, please, if anybody's watching this right now and there's something that you want to get in earlier, sooner, then just be like, hey, this is important. Please, can you help get this in? And then sure, David and I can like spend an hour or two looking at it and maybe getting it in. But right now, it's not going to be probably me or David for at least until kind of 3.0 is more strongly underway.
okay. So I think it's now a year ago. We have that buy a feature request. Do you know that?
Yeah.
It's a year ago, I think. So is there any thought about that to make this, or is this because I didn't hear anything about that anymore?
Oh, we picked them. I mean, we there was results, and there was like an article that talked about what the results of that were.
Okay. So
I don't
there are no
remember what they were,
there are
but
no future feature requests which can buy or can voted for or something like that. Is there any thoughts about
well,
that?
that's what the RFPs are for, right?
Okay.
So yes, if there's a feature that you really want, and you can convince, you can either do it yourself, or you can convince someone else that it's important enough to align our resources to, then you can absolutely. That's the whole idea behind the the governance, right? Is we're
Okay.
trying to formalize how we can agree on priorities.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
there a feature that you really want to see?
No. I thought about that because we are on our pull requests and our issues, and there are a lot of features. They maybe didn't really exist yet, and they are lost in space.
Well, yeah, the problem is, like, a lot of these pull requests, like, let's just take, okay, extendable can component extending. I saw that one in here. Like, it has no docs, or like the build won't be working. And the problem is, like, okay, I remember that, like, a lot of these pull requests, they're partial, and that's why they get dropped. The docs don't come in, the tests aren't there. People will submit a pull request without tests or documentation, and
So,
that's
but if they don't assign a test, so we have to close that pull request and say sorry. If you don't make a test, we can accept that pull request and close that. So
yeah.
it's really hard, but it's straightforward.
Okay, I mean, if you want to help us triage these, please, I would gladly take that help.
Okay.
You can easily go through and just look. Is it like, if it's tested? I mean, the big thing is to look at is like, is there a test? Is it documented? Typically, the answer is no for anyone that's in here, right? And then if you want, just hit that and just be like, okay, I'm just closing this unless it gets tests or documentation.
Yeah.
Then,
Sure.
then the final question really tends to be like, okay, is this something that we want to support? Sometimes we get pull requests for things that are just like not super supported, right? So that's or something that we don't want to add. It's like a feature that's like doesn't really belong in core. So then we probably should just close those and say, hey,
Who decide that?
Huh?
Who decide that? Who decide that it's not belongs to core?
Historically me, but now all of us can decide that.
Okay.
And for the most part, I give all of you, like, remember, I give all of you unanimous consent to make decisions, right? If it's something that you feel like, okay, what that means is you could just, if you feel like, no, this is not a good feature, you can just close it, and then one of us, it's on the responsibility of either the person who just got that issue closed to say, hey, rest of the CanJS community or DoneJS community, hey, please, let's get some second opinions in here. Or it's on us to notice that it was closed, disagree, and file a, like an RFP, or like we have a discussion, we make a decision. For the most part, if you think something isn't good, you just do it. And one of us, if there is a disagreement, will come and, you can operate pretty much independently.
Okay.
Please don't delete the repository, though.
Sure.
Just like start deleting things.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Just be as long as we're all thoughtful, and then I think it's better to have all us kind of working independently, doing what we think is right, and we can always have discussions. Better to ask for forgiveness than permission, I always say.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. All right. Yeah. I mean, you guys really are. I mean, maybe it's not clear, but you guys really are owners of the project when you become contributors. So I know it might feel like that, but you should feel that way. So you can flex those muscles and start doing stuff.
Okay, great.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Anything else? I don't know where Matthew went.
Yeah, we lost the half of the guys.
Yeah. They all got bored. Cool. Good discussion.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me, and have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.